In this problem, we need to find out the numerical value of the given trig expression. Let us begin. So here, as we can see, there are three terms. So let's start working with the first term. We have 3 times sine of x minus cosine of x whole raised to the power of 4. Now what we'll do, we're going to rewrite it as 3 times sine of x minus cosine of x whole squared whole raised to the power of 2. We're going to expand sine x minus cosine of x whole squared. That's going to give us sine squared x plus cosine squared x minus 2 times the product of sine x times cosine x, and then square this value. That will be equals to 3 times. Now sine squared x added to cosine squared x is a identity with a value equals to 1. It's a standard identity. So we are now left with the second term, negative 2 sine of x times cosine of x whole square. Now furthermore, what we'll do, we'll again expand 1 minus 2 sine x cosine x whole squared, and that should give us 1 plus 4 times sine squared x times cosine squared x minus 4 times sine of x times cosine of x, and multiplying each term with 3, so we get a 3 added to 12 times sine squared x times cosine squared x minus 12 times sine of x times cosine of x. So this is the expanded form of 3 times sine of x minus cosine of x whole raised to the power of 4. We're going to label this as number 1. Now we will work with the second term, 6 times sine of x plus cosine of x whole squared. That should give us 6 multiplied to sine squared x plus cosine squared x plus 2 times the product of sine of x times cosine of x, which will be equals to 6 multiplied to, so sine squared x plus cosine squared x, that will be 1. So we have 1 plus 2 times sine of x times cosine of x. Let's expand it. So expanding is going to give us 6 plus 12 times sine of x times cosine of x, and we're going to label this as number 2. Moving on to the third term, we have 4 times sine of x whole raised to the power of 6 plus sine of x whole raised to the power of 6. Let's work with that one. We have 4 multiplied to sine of x whole raised to the power of 6 plus cosine of x whole raised to the power of 6. Now we're going to rewrite each of the terms as 4 multiplied to, so sine of x raised to the power of 6 can be also expressed as sine squared x whole raised to the power of 3. Similarly, cosine x raised to the power of 6 can be expressed as cosine squared x whole raised to the power of 3. Now we know that whenever we have the sum of cubes, a cube plus b cube, so that's given by a plus b multiplied to a squared plus b squared minus ab, which means that we can expand sine squared x whole cube plus cosine squared x whole cube as a. So let's consider sine squared x to be equivalent to a and cosine squared x to be equivalent to b. We'll be getting sine squared x plus cosine squared x. So this gets multiplied to, now we have to square sine squared x, that gives us sine x raised to the power of 4. Then squaring cosine squared x gives us cosine of x raised to the power of 4, and then negative product of sine squared x and cosine squared x. So sine squared x multiplied to cosine squared x. Now sine squared x plus cosine squared x, that's 1. So we have 4 multiplied to sine x raised to the power of 4 plus cosine x raised to the power of 4. Now what we have here is a raised to the power of 4 plus b raised to the power of 4. Now we can also express this as a squared plus b squared whole squared minus 2 times the product of a squared times b squared, which means that sine x whole squared can be expressed as sine squared x plus cosine squared x whole squared, and from it we're going to subtract 2 times the product of sine squared x times cosine squared x, and we also have this term negative sine squared x times cosine squared x. So now we get 4 times, so this will become 1. So we have 1 minus, so these two terms will combine to give us 3 times sine squared x times cosine squared x. Now let's multiply each of the terms with 4. So we get 4 minus 12 times sine squared x times cosine squared x. So this is the expansion of the third term, 4 multiplied to sine of x raised to the power of 6 plus cosine of x raised to the power of 6. We're going to label this as number 3. Now what we'll do, we're going to add 1, 2 and 3. So when we add the 3 terms, 1, 2 and 3, on the left hand side we have 3 multiplied to sine of x minus cosine of x whole raised to the power of 4, added to 6 multiplied to sine of x plus cosine of x whole square, plus 4 multiplied to sine of x raised to the power of 6 plus cosine of x raised to the power of 6. And on the right hand side, so let's combine all the constant terms. So 6 plus 4, that's 10. 10 plus 3, that's 13. And then we have 12 sine square x cosine square x. Now this term and this term cancels out. And then we have positive 12 sine x cosine x and negative 12 sine x cosine x cancel out. And this is going to be the final result, which is giving us a numerical value of 13. So that means the value of the given expression comes out to be 13.